Hey there. Have you ever wondered why two complete strangers can meet on, a random Tuesday, and just a few months later, they literally cannot imagine life without each other? No magic spells, no swiping right until your thumb falls off, just pure, undeniable human connection. Why do some of these connections grow into this deep, unbreakable bond, while others just fizzle out as quickly as they started? Well, today in this explainer, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating psychology behind human attraction and figuring out exactly how two distinct lives manage to merge into one. Let's get into it.
So, is falling in love just pure luck? We've kind of been conditioned to believe that it is, haven't we? We think it's this magical accident, a single fateful moment, or just entirely based on physical attraction. I mean, we've seen it in the movies a million times, right? Two people lock eyes across a crowded room, the music swells, and boom, it's destiny. But psychology tells us a completely different and, frankly, way more interesting story. Because love, it isn't created by one magical moment.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. We're constantly sold this myth of luck, magic, and sudden physical sparks. But the reality? The reality is so much more grounded. True love actually develops through trust, shared experiences, and building a deep emotional connection. It's a gradual thing. It's built through countless small, seemingly ordinary interactions that slowly pull two people together. It's definitely not just a random stroke of luck.
To make this really clear, we're going to break down the psychology of love into three structured phases. First, building the foundation. Next, deepening the connection. And finally, sustaining the bond. Okay, let's dive right in.
First up, building the foundation. This is where and how love safely begins. Because, look, you can't build a sturdy house without a solid base, right? Relationships are exactly the same way. Have you ever noticed that the people you see the most often usually become the ones you're most comfortable around? Well, psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called the mirror exposure effect. Basically, the more positive interactions we have with someone, the more familiar they become, and familiarity breeds comfort. Honestly, this is exactly why so many relationships start at school, at work, or just hanging out with mutual friends. Love tends to take root in these low-pressure environments where you can repeatedly, casually, just enjoy each other's company.
Now, let's look at our next core concept and see how this builds. A lot of people think that having the exact same favorite bands or loving the same movies is the secret to lasting love. Actually, scratch that. Sharing hobbies is super fun, sure, but it is not the glue that holds a couple together. The real anchor? Shared values. We're talking about the big stuff: honesty, respect, family, commitment, your life goals, integrity. Couples who are on the same page about these deeper life values just find it remarkably easier to navigate the whole messy, complex business of building a life together.
So building that foundation really comes down to three main pillars. Familiarity and repeated exposure kind of get the ball rolling, and sharing core life values gives you a unified direction. But the true linchpin here, it's emotional safety without judgment. People don't fall in love just because someone is good looking. They fall in love because they feel safe. Safe to speak their mind, safe to admit their fears, safe to laugh, cry, and just be imperfect. When someone accepts you without constantly judging you, your emotional walls just naturally come down. And that is where genuine intimacy begins.
Okay, so once that foundation is set, we move straight into phase 2, deepening the connection. We're shifting our focus here from that initial feeling of comfort to the specific behaviors that build deep, unbreakable, emotional bonds.
So how exactly does this intimacy grow? Well, first off, through feeling truly understood. When someone actually listens carefully to you, remembers the little things you've shared, and genuinely tries to see the world from your perspective, you just naturally start to trust them more. Then we have shared, meaningful experiences. Psychologists have found that doing things together, whether that's traveling, tackling a tough project, trying something completely new, or just having each other's backs during hard times, turns every single shared experience into a thread that connects your two lives. And the more threads you weave together, the stronger the bond gets. Plus, of course, consistent acts of kindness and opening up with vulnerability play massive roles here.
There's a brilliant quote that captures this perfectly. Looks may catch attention. Kindness keeps hearts. Just think about the people you admire most in your own life. Chances are they're the ones who consistently make you feel respected, appreciated, and genuinely cared for, right? Simple everyday acts of encouragement, patience, and generosity create these positive emotional experiences that our brains literally just want to repeat over and over again.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it completely redefines intimacy. Vulnerability tells someone, I trust you enough to let you see the real me. You know, a lot of us try to act absolutely flawless when we start dating someone new. But perfection doesn't create closeness. Authenticity does. When you gradually start opening up about your dreams, your mistakes, your fears, your hopes, trust just explodes. Vulnerability is the ultimate signal. It tells the other person they are safe with the real you. It is such a powerful foundation for love.
Which brings us to our third and final phase, sustaining the bond. So how do we keep the relationship alive and thriving long after that initial intoxicating excitement naturally fades?
We so often think love is all about these grand romantic gestures, right? Surprise vacations, massive bouquets of red roses. And hey, those are exciting, absolutely. But true long-term emotional security, that is built entirely on consistent, small moments. It's keeping your promises. It's showing up on time, following through on what you say you're going to do, simply checking in after a really long day. Trust is not built in a few dramatic, movie-like scenes. It's built through hundreds and hundreds of small, quiet moments that are just repeated over time.
So, what actually keeps love alive? Well, it requires consistency in those small things, and crucially, mutual respect as equals. Without respect, love eventually suffocates. A truly healthy relationship allows both people to have their own opinions, their own dreams, boundaries, friendships, and plenty of room for personal growth. Respect basically means valuing your partner as an equal and never trying to control them. When respect is present, love actually gets the breathing room it needs to flourish.
So the crucial point is this: love is both a feeling and a choice. Honestly, probably the biggest misunderstanding about love is believing it's only an emotion. Feelings naturally rise and fall depending on the day, your stress levels, or just the season of life you're in. But lasting love, that requires choices. It requires choosing patience, choosing forgiveness, choosing honesty, and choosing open communication. It means choosing each other every single day, even when that initial crazy excitement fades. That act of choice is what transforms mere attraction into a lifelong commitment.
Now, I want to pivot for a second to an ultimate truth derived from the psychology we've been looking at today. Real love cannot be manipulated. Look, a lot of people spend years searching for the perfect words, the exact right text message to send, or some weird psychological trick to magically make someone fall in love. But here it is. There is no trick. Love only grows when two emotionally healthy people consistently create an environment of trust, kindness, and safety. If someone isn't interested, no technique is going to create genuine love. And if they are interested, well, you don't need to pretend to be someone you aren't.
The psychology of love really isn't about controlling another person's heart. It's about understanding the conditions that allow love to grow naturally. So instead of asking, how can I make someone fall in love with me, we need to reframe our entire perspective and ask ourselves, how can I become someone who is capable of giving and receiving healthy love? You've got to focus on your own emotional maturity. Because when two people are emotionally open, when they communicate honestly and genuinely care, love doesn't need to be forced. It just grows. One conversation, one act of kindness, and one shared moment at a time.
We've covered a lot of ground today, looking at the science and the psychology behind human connection. So now I want to turn it over to you. Based on your own life, your own experiences, and everything we've unpacked in this explainer today, what do you believe is the most important ingredient for lasting love? Is it trust, communication, respect, or is it something else entirely? Think about that as you go about your day, and keep striving to build those healthy, authentic connections.